Hello and welcome back to day number 31 of this journey during this season. Welcome to the Realignment Lent journey, day 31. And we're so glad to have you here with us, and so glad that you're allowing us to be with you. And so, as we kick off today, I want to talk to you a little bit about realigning perseverance. Realigning perseverance. Galatians 6 and 9 says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. We will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So, what does that say to us? That says that alignment requires endurance. Alignment requires endurance. In other words, you cannot give in. Caving in is not an option. Quitting is not an option. Throwing in the towel is not an option, because when we are realigned, what it says is that I know how to hang in there. And I think that one of the things that happens with many of us on our journey is that we don't know how to hang in there. It's time for you to take a deep breath and to understand that if you don't give up, you're going to win. Yeah. Why? Because you got to endure it. You got to understand that alignment requires your endurance, not just starting well, not just having good intentions, not just moments of passion. No, you have to endure, and that's why Paul says to the church at Galatia, don't become weary in doing good. Has anybody told you lately that you're doing good? Yeah, you in many cases you're doing good, but you can't give up. You can't quit. You cannot lay down and roll over, because that signifies that you can't hang in there. Spiritual growth is not instant. It is cultivated over time. Uh, it takes time to get there. It takes time to get there. It's a day by day step. It's a day by day transition for you to arrive at a place of spiritual maturity, spiritual growth. And Paul acknowledges that yes, you get weary. Yes, you get tired. Yes, you need a leaning post. But you have to understand, while he acknowledges weariness, he does not acknowledge failure. He acknowledges fatigue. He says, "Don't become weary. Don't become weary." Yes, you get weary, but don't give in. Don't give in. And what happens is many people quit not because they are wrong, but because they're tired. And I know I get it. Uh, when you're going through what you're going through, sometimes you just don't feel like pushing any further. Honestly, let's be real about it. Sometimes you just don't have it in you push any further. But you have to understand that you have to keep going. You cannot give up. Misalignment often begins when consistency breaks. You gotta be consistent. You gotta be consistent. You gotta be consistent. Watch this. Endurance is the spiritual capacity to remain steady, faithful, and in obedience consistent in obedience to God over time, regardless of your emotions, regardless of delays or difficulty. And this is where many people struggle, because we live in a culture that celebrates quick results, microwave results, fast progress, and immediate outcomes. But spiritual growth does not work the same way. No, it's cultivated over time. What do you mean? Roots grow before fruit appears. Strength develops before results are visible. And transformation happens internally before you see it show up on the outside. And some of the tension that we have to confront and manage here is that many people quit, again, not because they're wrong, because they're tired. They were on the right path. They were doing the right thing. They were making the right decisions. They were going to the right places. They were studying the right things. They were honoring God, but somehow fatigue stepped in, and discouragement started whispering, and delay started creating doubt. And this is where their misalignment begins. And so again, you got to be consistent because it often starts misalignment often starts where when the consistency is broken, not because of a major failure, not because of a complete collapse, but because of the small interruptions in faithfulness. I think Proverbs says that it's the little foxes that destroy the vines. You got to understand that when you start skipping what used to be consistent, neglecting what used to be intentional, pulling back from what God told you to stay committed to, and over time those small breaks, the small things start to create the distance. But here's what you got to know: perseverance does something powerful. Perseverance does something powerful. What is that? Perseverance keeps you anchored when results are delayed. Yes, it keeps you anchored when results are delayed. It reminds you that just because you do not see growth, that doesn't mean growth is not happening. Yeah, just because growth growth is not visible to the eye, it does not mean that growth is not taking place in the area of the unseen. You have to you have to know that. You have to know that Hebrews tells us that you need endurance so that after you have done the will of God, after you have done the will of God, you may receive what was promised. James says that the one who perseveres under trial is blessed. Yeah, Romans tells us that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. So what you're in right now, where you are right now, it is not wasted. Excuse me, it is not wasted, it is working. It is not wasted. It is working. I was in a conversation on yesterday, and in the middle of this conversation, I was reminded that oftentimes where we are, we think that we're off, but we're right where we need to be. We're right where we need to be. And so we have to understand that our perseverance is what is key. And if we really stop and look at the deeper truth that we'll find is that endurance builds strength. Endurance builds strength. Every time you continue when it's difficult, your capacity increases. Your faith deepens and your character strengthens. That's right. Every time, every single time, you have to know that every time you keep going when it's difficult, you're increasing capacity. Every time you stay faithful when it would have been easier to quit, your faith is deepening. Every time you choose consistency over convenience, your character is strengthening. You're not just waiting. No, you're not just waiting. You are becoming. That's right. You need to tell yourself, I am not just waiting. I am becoming. And you need to hear me clearly. Harvest is promised, but it is not immediate. Harvest is promised, but it's not immediate. What do you mean? There is a proper time. There is a due season. There is a set time, a God ordained moment where you are going to receive because of what you have been sowing. That's right. When that time that you begin to see what it is your labor has been working to produce, there's a God ordained moment where what you've been sowing begins to now show. But alignment requires that you stay steady, even when your emotions fluctuate. That's right. Don't be governed by your feelings, be governed by your faith, be governed by what God's word has already said. Why? Because your feelings and your emotions will rise and fall. Some days you'll feel strong, Other days you'll feel drained. Some days you'll feel confident. Other days you'll feel uncertain. Some days you'll feel on target. Other days you'll feel lost. Some days you feel like you got it together. Some days you feel like everything is all scattered. But alignment says, I will not let how I feel determine whether I remain faithful. And this is what I want you to carry with you today. Consistency will carry you where motivation cannot. Consistency will carry you where motivation cannot. Motivation um, is temporary. Motivation is temporary, but consistency is transformative. Motivation gets you started. Consistency keeps you going. So, when you do not feel like it, you pray. When you don't feel